Okay, we're at video 11 and we're going to take a look at some charts. Now we're ready to present. You've been able to analyze and create something that's meaningful to your problem, and you need to be able to share it. So let's start by just looking at the basic chart types. We'll do a column chart, a line chart, and I believe a pie chart. So Excel has a couple of different ways to do this. I'm going to show you the sort of original way to do this by inserting it through their typical utility. We're going to find it in the Insert tab of the ribbon, and we're going to start with a line chart. Now, I have gathered some data here that will just be easy and ready for you to visualize in this way. And I'd actually recommend this as a key way to use Excel, is to not take raw data and try to build a chart from it, but instead curate your data and put it into a summary table that makes it really easy for you to build a chart. Now, that's sort of an unfortunate thing about Excel, and this is where more advanced tools start to shine. But when you can boil your data down into a simple table of what you want to communicate in a visual, then the visuals are created pretty quickly and are very customizable. So it has a lot of power there. So we'll start with the basics, that we have a number of admissions by month. And so it starts just by selecting that data that we're going to use, going to the Insert tab, and then you'll see an entire charts area. We're going to do line charts, and we're going to start with this 2D line. And so this does a pretty good job of grabbing the information that's available in what we chose and presenting it in a quite nice fashion. It's ready to go for the most part. We might just do something like add data labels with the chart elements addition button up here to the upper right. So now you've got already a line chart of admissions by month. So that is the most basic format of how we're going to add charts. Now let's look at a couple different types. Let's do a column chart. So here I have surgeries by department, and you can go ahead and select the data in just like we did before. Go to the Insert tab, the charts area, and you're looking here for the column or bar chart. Pick that first one there, clustered column, and you get a similar activity here. You get the chart to grab most of the data elements that you are using. It realizes that you're trying to show this dimension and sum up the value that is there for it, and that the name of that value is surgeries, number of surgeries. So that's the basic way to create it. We'll look at formatting options later, but I just want you to see a couple different versions of creating data from something you have, creating a chart from data you already have. So the last one is going to be a pie chart. I'll just give you the blanketed overall warning here. For whatever reason, I learned right away in my analytics training that you should never use a pie chart. I don't think I fully agree. The caveat to it that's usually given is, as long as you have 2 to 3 data elements and the relationship or the difference between the different groups is very observable, then it's okay to use a pie chart. Otherwise, what's usually stated is that the human eye doesn't do a very good job of using area in a circle to represent proportionality. So just that word of warning, to if you are really used to using pie charts, you're going to have to start weaning that use a little bit, especially if they're busy. In this case, I think it could make some sense. So I've selected the data. We've got the exact same process. Insert this pie chart, and I'll pick that one. I think actually this does show that it is hard to read and see what's there, so I'll add those data labels in that same way. And now you've got percent of total patients. Not a very descriptive title. We would probably change that, but I'm not going to format on this one. We'll get to that later. This is the basics. How do you get to a chart from data? And you've already got your first 3 charts. So let's head over and do a little bit more advanced example. So this example is going to be a combination chart. This is a type of chart that can put more than one element visually together, and it's very, very handy. And so I've got here for each month the admissions and the readmission rate. So 2 different measures and really different scales, and you're going to see how that's an important thing to be considering, where admissions are somewhere between 20 and 30. Readmission rate, if you remember, percentages, and how they convert to decimals. This range is somewhere between 0.03 and 0.07. So those ranges come into play when I go and insert a combination chart, which is this icon here. And if I were to just choose this first one, the clustered column with line, it uses this chart to highlight these two different data types. And what it's doing is actually keeping them on the same scale. This is a common issue that comes up in doing clustered charts. And so the very next option actually accounts for this and takes the readmission rate and puts it on the next axis. And so that's really what I was trying to do. If you were having trouble getting to that result in the insert and chart area, if you were to pop that out, you will actually find the options that you're probably looking for here in saying, I want the admissions part of my data to be shown as a clustered column or a bar or a line, and I'm going to do the readmission rate as whatever it is, and I can choose to put it on the secondary axis or not. So that's the way you would do that manually. But now you're able to show two things, within a particular month, January, what was the number of admissions and what was our readmission rate. So this opens up possibilities for representing data and relationships to see what is happening between these two measures as we move through time. So for your tasks here, I've got creating this chart and then making sure that we've got the dual axis. And then let's go ahead and adjust a couple of chart elements. Let's get this title working for us, because right now it's got just a generic name in there. So let's go ahead and call this admissions versus readmission rate. Okay, so there we've got that. Let's also just look at an option like formatting the axis with the right scale. If we were really not liking something like how this was showing up and we wanted it to be represented a little bit differently, let's show a broader range of possibilities or something to that effect so that this is either not squished or it needs to be stretched out. That can be accomplished by clicking onto the axis that relates to that data piece, right-clicking, and going to the Format Axis option here. And so here is where you can set things like the minimum and maximum. So let's say if for whatever reason we really didn't want it to go from 0 to 8%, we wanted it to go from 0 to 20%, that's where we could make that option. And so this is your flexibility you have with creating visuals in Excel to make sure that it's representing visually the way that you would like the way that you'd really like it to. So there's your combination chart. All right, let's go think about some formatting and design things. I've got a couple of tasks here for you. You saw on that last one, one of a couple of options I would use for formatting to make sure that it's being shown meaningfully. And so I've got a small list of tasks here for you. I've got two charts. One is going to be admissions and discharges by month, and the other is going to be discharges and readmission rate by month. So the things that I'd like to see you get comfortable doing is adjusting the title in order to represent what we really are sharing in the visual. And so here we would say admissions and discharges by month. Very descriptive title. There's no gray area about what this represents. However, one thing that isn't clear from what's on the chart is which one is admissions and which one is discharges. And so that's available here in our chart elements. If we come on down to the legend, and we've got the legend incorporated there. Some of the options that you do have around legend are available in the arrow that pops up when we hover over legend. You can put it at the top, put it on the left, put it on the bottom. I think I like it on the bottom here. I think it looks the best, doesn't squish our visual. And so there you go. You've added a couple elements to your data. Now, another opportunity is to apply a really professional color scheme. Some things to consider here would be if you have some common topics across visuals, across your workbook, to go ahead and keep them colored in a way that is consistent. So, on the left, we've got admissions as blue and discharges as orange. Somewhere in the same presentation or the same workbook, we might be having something like the chart that's on the right where we actually use discharges, but the default action of Excel here has been to turn it blue first. However, earlier in the presentation, folks would have seen a visual where discharges were orange. And so this is an opportunity we have to format a little more directly. I would go ahead and click on that data element that you're working on, and if you right click, you can see it pops up the fill option, in which I can change that quickly. I'll do this same thing with the line. Because this line is a line, it's not filled in, you actually are adjusting the outline, not the fill. And we're going to pick a different color because of that, the fact that it's not an admission or a discharge, and in other places in the document we've actually shared blue or orange as a kind of a different meaning. So the legend automatically updates for you. You've got that working. Let's go ahead and name this so that it's meaningful. We've got discharges and readmission rate by month. All right, so let's take one more consideration, optimizing for presentation. I just want to show some of the types of things that need to be adjusted for presentation and how you might go about doing it. Most of the elements on the chart are individually clickable or right-clickable to find the options that you have for formatting them. And the axes are no different. You saw in another example where I edited the axis by coming here to format the axis. But an example that might come up is that your axis is presenting as too small or hard to read. And the way that you can adjust that is by selecting that axis and then using the other utilities that are already up there in the top of the browser, or the top of your window, in Excel, in the ribbon, in order to adjust things about that axis. So I'm going to choose this axis and go ahead and make it a size 12. Now it's very readable. It's probably bigger than I would personally choose to do it, but that's one of the options. I wanted you to see how to adjust things like that, and any of your text options like bold, italics, and underlined are things that you could do. Wouldn't recommend all those, but those are options that you have for this axis and how to format it. All right, those are some considerations I wanted you to see in creating clean visuals that present well. So let's head back to that index and think about what is our last topic. Our last topic is Sparklines. Sparklines are this really great utility for summarizing information, especially when you've got a lot of measures. And if you've got detail about those measures, maybe across time or something else, but you do want to make sure that outside of the just table formatted data that you're presenting that might show a trend, if you read it very carefully and have a keen eye, you may just want some visual representation of the trend that's happening. And so a Sparkline allows you to do that in a very clean way. So we'll look at an example. I've got a data here again, which goes by month, and it shares admissions, discharges, and the readmission rate. And so I'm going to ask you to go ahead and create some Sparklines down here below it. And so for admissions, the way that we create this is to select the cell where we want our Sparkline. You can see that I've already formatted this row to be a little bit wider, and you're going to see that really helps the visual appearance of our Sparkline. So I'm going to go to Insert. Next to the charts is a whole section on Sparklines. And I'm going to do these first two as a column Sparkline, and so I choose that. It's already got the location range picked here, C25, but let's go ahead and pick the data range. This is the admissions component, so I select that area and hit OK. And so now you see we've got this small visual representation of admissions just in this cell, which is really tight and compact, but gives you in general the sort of direction that admissions are going. They are higher now in this last month than they ever have been, and that's the signal you can produce with Sparkline, is just sort of general direction and proportion. Next, let's do discharges. And so it's the same process. Insert Sparkline column and select the data that you want. We will choose discharges. And there you are. You have discharges right there underneath admissions. Let's go ahead and just show one quick adjustment you might want to make. Remember, in our previous formatting discussion, we talked about keeping similar topics with similar colors. So in that last page we were working on, admissions were blue, but discharges were orange. The place that you can adjust that is right up here in the Sparklines section of your ribbon and the marker card. Then go to, I'm sorry, not the marker color. We'll show you an example of using that in the next item, but Sparkline color. And so I can change my discharges back to orange. So we got that there. Finally, let's show general direction of readmissions. We will do this in a line format for the Sparkline so you can see that. I'm going to select the data here for readmissions, click OK, and there you can see it represented nicely. I want to show a couple options that are here in this marker color. You might have gotten a preview as I made a mistake earlier, but you could do things like, I want to mark a high point in this data and choose what color to mark it with. So that's an interesting thing where you could easily make the choice of, well, yeah, let's make our high point green and our low point red. That's reasonable. Everybody understands the implication there, and that would show that you haven't thought through this problem and what it is that you're presenting. This is readmissions. Readmissions in the hospital are a negative thing, and so a high point in our readmissions rate would actually be something we want to point out as an issue. So I've done that, and now you can see, if your eye was really quick, that in the cell the high point in this trend is marked with a red dot. So let's go ahead and do the same thing to our low point, give them credit for where they're doing well. You can see you can also mark the first and last point in some unique way if you would like to. So there we go. We've got the low point in readmission rate, the high point in readmission rate, and together in one very compact visual, you've got some sense of the trend of these three items in your data. All right, that's a whole bunch on charts and visualizations. That's the end of video 11. Can't wait to see you in the next video.